All right, folks, this is Harris Sultan, and I've got a very special guest with me, Nuriyah Khan. You might have seen her popping up in some amazing podcasts these days. She's appeared twice on Andrew Gold's Heretics, and recently you probably saw her on Liam Tuff's podcast. She's a rising star, but I take a lot of pride in saying that she started her activism right here on my channel. Bing, bing. Nuria, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me back right where it all started.
Exactly. So let's get straight into it. A lot has happened. I actually thought maybe we should do this every week where we should discuss the absurdities that we see on UK social media. I have some news stories to share with you and some clips that I want to show you, and I want to get your reaction. But just to set the scene, let me ask you, are you worried about Britain's future? Are you worried that the next generation is not going to have it like you did or even your parents' generation did?
Without a doubt, Harris, without a shadow of a doubt. And to be honest, I don't think I've even enjoyed the fruits of what could be like an optimal society. I feel like since I've moved back from the Middle East, I've just come into this almost cesspit of honestly every single day these days it seems like it's getting worse than the day before. But even if you look at like the gradual yearly decline over like let's say the last 2 decades, if you think about everything from like the might of when the grooming-gang scandals were taking place, everything until now, when Tony Blair was in power, we see the migration crisis, we see what the Labour Party are currently doing, we see what the Tory party had done for over a decade before that. It's just for somebody in my generation, I'm one of the more kind of younger millennials, it has been a life of despair to be a Brit born and raised and trying to make a life for yourself in this country. It's like the whole system is rigged against you. And then that's not even to mention how things are on the Islam front. And I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, it's a very, very bleak picture at the minute.
Because everything that you look at, from migration to cost of living crisis to social cohesion, every indicator that you look at, Britain is not doing well. And by the looks of it, people in power or the establishment or the government, whatever you want to call them, for some reason, they don't want to do anything about it. They just want to put fingers in their ears and say, everything's fine, everything's hunky dory. It's just you guys are just crying for no reason. You're racist, far right hugs, and let us get on with our business. Why do you think that is? Is that just denial? Or you think that they recognize that things are falling apart, but it's too difficult to do something about it? Because obviously that would require a lot of effort. It would require, first of all, I think you would require recognition, and then you would need a plan, and then you would need to act on that plan. All of these three things, especially the latter two, require a lot of effort, and that requires competency. When I look at the current Labour government, I don't think they have any of these things.
Oh, far from it. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it's not just a case of putting their fingers in their ears and being kind of in denial about the whole situation and burying their heads in the sand. I would go as far as to say so many of them at the highest levels of our establishment are complicit in the way things are unfolding and are an active part of that. We see, I mean, yeah, we can pick out any single crisis here that's affecting, let's say, somebody of my age, but the general wider public, and particularly the working class Brits who feel extremely disenfranchised at the moment. But when you hear cases of, a man come over from Sudan and he's immediately given a studio flat in a nice part of London, and then you get people who are my age who are struggling to ever get on the property ladder. And then the next thing you hear is he's brought his whole family here on the taxpayer's expense, and he's been shifted to a 4-bedroom house where there is a single woman fleeing domestic violence who's British, born here, lived here her whole life, and he gets placed in front of her. I mean, that's exactly what happened with an Afghan family. And it caused a bit of a stir here. But this case I just gave you of like the man from Sudan, this is the news I wake up to every single day, where people like myself are, waking up at the early hours, coming back late, working hard for most of your life, struggling to put a pension together that you can survive on. And the government just seems to take and take and take. And, you say things like, it would take a level of competency. Honestly, Horace, it's not that difficult. I've heard the politicians who are kind of, waiting to come into power to just, there's a couple of things that you can do which would immediately overnight rectify the situation. And I'm talking about things like, leave the ECHR. You've got the human rights law and you've got that already to be enacted into British law. We don't need to look to Europe to safeguard the human rights of these people who are the perpetrators of mass rape gangs of white British girls. Why do we care about their human rights? It's because Europe tells us to care about their human rights. There's, again, similar steps like that to control your border force. How difficult is it? We saw Trump come to power and we saw how tightly he was able to manage the immigration flow into America. The same thing is very much possible here. We're an island nation. I'd argue it's even easier, hold France to account more. And like, talk is cheap, as I'm sure we're going to, unpack later. But even with, Shabana Mahmood stepping into power now, it's really, really, really easy to come out and say, we're going to smash the gangs, we're going to stop the boats. But honestly, I'm sick of it. I've been hearing about this for yonks now. And nothing ever happens. It seems to get worse. Every single day I wake up and hundreds more are miles away from our shores of Dover. And you just look around and you see what it's doing to society and social cohesion and just the general morale of the British public.
Why do you think there's such a big segment of, well, I don't know whether that's big anymore. I think the numbers are diminishing. But why do you think there still is a number of people in the society who should be able to see what you just said? I mean, you put it very simply. It actually reminds me of this Labour minister's quote or her sentiment, which was echoed in this Daily Mail article. The Labour minister insists the rights of Bell Hotel asylum seekers trump those of families in Epping. I mean, do they not even realize the absurdity of this sentiment? I mean, I don't know whether she actually said this or not, or that's what she meant. But the whole notion, this whole sentiment is so absurd, as you put it, that they are victims of domestic violence. They can't get a hotel. They're escaping domestic violence. But then you have someone who comes from a faraway land, nothing personal, nothing against them. But the first and foremost priority of the British government should be its own people. If you can't afford to house your own people or protect your own people, then everything else becomes secondary. It's like, sorry, guys, we're full. I understand you have human rights. You're probably doing it tough. You're probably trying to escape the Taliban, or maybe not. Maybe you are working for them. We don't know anything, but it's none of our business. It seems so simple to grasp, but there's still a segment of society that thinks, no, we forget about our pensioners, forget about our domestic violence victims or our homeless people, our veterans, forget about all of them. We gotta look after these people first. Are they disconnected from reality, or they're blinded by their lefty ideology? What is it? I can't see, I genuinely try to understand that as neutrally as I can, but I cannot get a single sane argument in their defense.
Oh, in their defense, absolutely not. I mean, I would call it, honestly, I would say it's on the verge of treason. What do you call a government, Harris, that is actively working against their own people? That is
Mm.
what is currently happening in the UK. They are actively working against the interests of the British people. If you go out and you fly a St. George's flag, there's more chance of you going to prison than if you go and deface statues and wave the Palestinian flag. And what does that say when you're trying to make an example of, patriots, and you let off people who plan terrorist attacks in your country and say, "Oh, I hope you're okay in American jails because they're quite strict in custody," or something redonkulous to that
The
effect. But
judge, he
this,
said, good
yeah,
luck. He wished
good
him
luck,
good luck. The
exactly.
person who killed British citizens or was involved in that, he said, good luck to you, sir. These judges, too. I mean, what is it?
And this is what I'm saying. This is an absolute madness when I tell you that they're complicit. I mean, the highest
Is this
levels of the
ideology driven
establishment.
though? I mean, the other day I read this headline from a Labour councillor who labelled the grooming gang victim girls as white trash. Is there contempt for their own people? Is it ideology driven? I don't understand what this is.
I think it's definitely entrenched in this extremely anti-Western kind of anti-capitalist, globalized mindset where they want to break down borders.
Anarchists?
And
Are they anarchists?
I mean, so there's a lot of talk lately. I mean, look at Keir Starmer. If you look at his background and the things he was involved in when it comes to the Soviet Union. His links are shady as hell. I'm sorry to say. And then now there's like more and more reports are coming out about the infiltration of something called the Fabian Society, which are extreme Marxist socialists as well, with the same agenda that I was talking about. Complete breakdown of borders, very very anti-capitalist to usher in a socialist society. There's a breakdown of ways in order to do that, and many of them are what we're seeing play out in terms of similar ways to the I personally think that non-violent jihad works, where you infiltrate systems from within, you start changing the language, you enter politics, you corrupt the judiciary, you get all your people sat in very important places, and slowly you start eroding everything safe and known and sacrosanct to society at large. So whether it's like the nuclear family, whether it's like just general values that the country holds, like a woman is a woman, a biological woman, no man can grow a cervix. And now we're talking about, oh, actually, if he calls himself a woman, can he be? All of this is like, the slow degradation and infiltration of their worldview. But yeah, I would say that, there is a wider agenda at play, and it gets even more nefarious and sinister when you think that they are teaming up with Islamists, and then
Mm.
the Islamists are on their own, for lack of a better word, war path into one day they would like to see, a Muslim party of the UK emerge, and here you've got these extreme leftist ideologues who want the destruction of the West. And sorry, but the Labour Party has for many years seen to be taken on this extreme leftist approach, as well as London is pretty famous for historically the civil service, and many of these organizations are known to be very, very hard left-leaning organizations. And I think I mentioned this to you before as well, our top universities, whether it's Qatari money, whether it's the
Billions poured
infiltration.
into it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's worse in the
absolutely.
US. It's worse
Oh yeah, yeah,
in
yeah. Same thing.
Harvard and
The US has the exact rot. Yes, exactly. The Ivy Leagues and everything below. So yeah, they've infiltrated everywhere, and they've done a damn good job at it. But I'm sure we'll inject some positivity into this interview at some
it's
point as
coming,
well. But
hopefully.
yeah, because the lions are awakening, and as I'm sure you've seen all over social media, the sleeping lions are soon to be awakening.
It's funny you mentioned this alliance between the Islamists and the lefties. I think I was one of the first few people to call it the Unholy Alliance, although I
I
wasn't the first
remember.
person to notice it. It's been noticed by people um, uh, way before than I came on the scene. I used to think that maybe this lefty politics is driven by compassion, that we have to look out for these people who are marginalized. They are a minority, so therefore we have to look out for them. Initially, you could forgive them for thinking that way, that there is a dominant culture, the white culture, and they want to establish their hegemony over the rest of the society. So we have to fight them. So these are progressive values we have to look out for. But it's been fairly long for these lefties to see what Islamists truly stand for. I was looking up at the core values of the Greens, which is pretty much the same everywhere. We have a Greens party here in Australia, and you have one in the UK. So I was looking
Pretty
at
awful
the
stuff, isn't it? Pretty scary
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, but what doesn't make sense is that why do they get in bed with Islamists? So here are some key values: grassroots democracy, antithetical to Islam; social justice and equal opportunity, equal opportunity and social justice to LGBTQ people, antithetical to Islam. Ecological wisdom, meaning environment. Non-violence, sustainability, blah, blah, blah. So these are some top values of the Greens. And then at the same time, they get in bed with people like this guy. This guy's name is Motin Ali. He is the new deputy leader for the Greens party. He's second in charge. Now, he's not a clean-shaven...
Can't make this up.
Yeah, you can't make this up. Could they not pause for a moment and ask him, what are your views towards the LGBTQ community? What do you think should happen? What are your views on women liberation? Are women equal to men? Or this simple, very basic, what do you think about Prophet Muhammad's marriage to Aisha at 9 years of age? Now, he could dodge those questions. He could lie. But I think they don't even need to lie because they're not even being scrutinized by these woke politicians. So I'm not just attacking him because of the way he looks. I pulled out some of his past statements. Oh, by the way, before that, he won the local body election back in 2024 from the Leeds City Council or something like that. So this guy is the new deputy leader of the Greens party.
Oh Lord!
Allahu Akbar. He won a local body seat as a councillor in Leeds, I believe.
Leeds, yeah. Leeds is
Leeds
a
City
heavily
Council.
Muslim populated area as well, yeah.
Leeds, yeah. And his main motivation to go into politics was Gaza. It wasn't to fix the roads or improve the neighborhood. It wasn't that. It was Gaza. And ordinary Brits should take a pause and say, okay, you could have a humanitarian opinion on Gaza, but the UK has no influence on Israel. Yes, if only the US does, okay? Only the US could make Israel do whatever they want them to do, but even that to some extent. So if you're a UK British citizen or subject, then you should be concerned about what's happening in your immediate neighborhood, what's happening to your police, what's happening, usual stuff. But this guy's main motivation was to enter into politics so he could somehow do something for Gaza. So here are some of his statements that he made after he won the election. On 7th of October 2023, he posted. So he hadn't won at that point. He was just a normal citizen. He didn't have to put a mask on, basically. He says settler colonialism must end and defended the right of indigenous people to fight back, meaning what Hamas is doing is okay, which the Jewish Chronicle flagged as effectively excusing Hamas's massacre. He later apologized for any upset. You see that? They know what to say, what not to say, and when to back off. So because he was a private citizen at that point, so you could spew whatever nonsense you want on social media, which in and of itself is pretty pathetic, given that if a native citizen says something like this, he is paid a visit by the local police.
The thought police, yeah.
Yes. And after his May 2024 win, he framed it as for the people of Gaza, not for the people of Leeds. And he shouted Allahu Akbar, the video that I just played. In February 2024, he tore into a Jewish chaplain who returned to serve in the IDF, calling him absolutely disgusting and a lowlife, which drew accusations. Now, he may think he's righteous. And that's the point that we need to ponder on. That these people have different goals. They have different interests, and they do not align with British goals. I'm sure he's perfectly fine. If you asked him, he'd be like, yeah, what's wrong with helping the people of Gaza? Yeah, we get it. Because you have your own line of reasoning. Because you are a Muslim, you will always stand by Islam and Muslims. That is not in the interest of Britain. Britain is not a Muslim country. Britain does not want to see itself as a future, one vast majority of British public don't want to see that. Maybe the British establishment has probably already surrendered, but the British public does not want to see Britain become a Muslim country. So that's why your interests will never converge. They have diverged already. So you wonder why these incredibly woke, progressive, lefty politicians, they don't scrutinize these Islamist politicians in their midst, and they are showering them with high position. For example, this lady, Carla Dania, she's a Green MP for Bristol. In her bio says she, her. She's a bisexual woman, but she has a rainbow in her bio. And she's complaining about solidarity with our new deputy leader, Motin Ali, who has endured horrific racist abuse. He's absolutely right. The racist rhetoric from the likes of Reform have stirred up hate and made awful incidents like this more likely. Racism is wrong. Fair enough. Shouldn't happen. But do these people not understand the resentment that is growing in the masses, which is giving rise to racism? Again, not right. It shouldn't happen. But, the world isn't run by our lofty ideals and our wishes. These things, I'm predicting it, and I don't have to have a crystal ball to predict that these incidents are going to increase because people's interests are clashing with each other. British interests are different from this guy's interests or these anarchist lefty wokey his interests, and that's going to give rise to more social unrest. Do these people not see that? What do you have to say about this unholy alliance between the left and
Well, I mean, I think it's genuinely, and I've said this before, like it's a ticking time bomb, if you will. It's like it's a car crash waiting to happen, because they are in bed with each other, and obviously politics makes for strange bedfellows. But when it comes down to it, I'm sure if she was to have a frank conversation about whether Mohsin Ali, what his views are on bisexuality, even, she probably won't like his answer. And it's as simple as that. And we've seen the beginnings of this, and I
why
mean,
don't they
just
ask this
because
question though? Why don't they ask this question though? Does she not? I mean,
think
they can't claim ignorance now. I mean, surely they have heard us. White person says something against Motin Ali, that's racist. But you and I are brown. We're telling them, look, they don't share your values. Why don't they ask them?
I just, in my humble opinion, I think on some of the bigger, wider issues that a lot of these, I say even like the liberal white women who kind of really champion Islam, they really think that we are on the side of human rights, and we are on the side against the oppressors. So if we've chosen the side, it must be the right side. And so when they see people like Morsi and Ali and all these people, their wider objectives are the same, like uh the like a complete
Overthrow the status
apathy.
quo? Overthrow the status
Pardon?
quo? So, yeah,
Overthrow the status quo, and also not to be proud of any of your heritage and traditions, and just
colonial
constantly be
past.
yeah, absolutely, this post-colonial guilt they carry with them, and they think that um anybody who's working towards eroding that are on our side, and that's essentially what happens when you see them team
The
up.
enemy
But
of
like
my
I'm
enemy is my
saying,
friend.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm not even sure how much they know that they are their enemy, but I mean, you only have to look to history to see what's happened. People use Iran as a great case in point of what happened right after the revolution, when thousands of them were executed almost instantly.
What happened before the revolution, though?
Yeah, well,
The
they
left.
teamed up, didn't they? Exactly. The socialists of all the universities, the students just teamed up blindly with thinking that the Islamists are going to help them galvanize and come into power. But history has
Overthrow
shown
the
in
status
many.
quo.
Absolutely, yeah. And I also, I mean, like I said, it's I'm already seeing the breakdown of this in the UK, where Jeremy Corbyn, sorry, his new party,
Oh,
um,
your party.
he's yeah, it's called Your Party. Oh my God. But anyway, I'm gonna go out on a limb here as well and say the extreme Islamic abiding members of that party, i.e., Islamists, if you want to call them that, they've suddenly, having a kind of civil war and infighting with the trans rights activists within that party, because lo and behold, they woke up and smelled the coffee that the two just don't merged together. And so trans right activists are having a pop. I think there was an MP, his name is Adnan something.
Yes, I'm
Um,
not saying.
they had a public kind of spat on X, And I mean, I just did a popcorn emoji because this is it. This is what is going to happen. This is exactly what I mean with the car crash waiting to happen. And I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed every moment of scrolling through that post. But yeah, I think it's extremely scary, Harris, because when we saw like, when I think I mentioned this on Andrew Gold's podcast, what really got to me was after October 7th, what happened and my own kind of wake up call and learnings on the back of that, and kind of checking my own, biases and affiliations. Seeing that a lot of the Muslim MPs of the Labour Party were breaking away as soon as they did not like the line that the Labour Party were towing when it came to Gaza. So if they were a little bit stum in a few moments when the Muslim MPs within the Labour Party wanted them to be like extremely vocal, boycott Israel, go out and do demonstrations, hold the British government to account for supplying weapons, all of this kind of stuff, calling it a genocide, terming it a genocide. When that wasn't happening, the breakaway was so swift for some of these Muslim MPs to turn independent. And like you gave the example of Leeds, but there were a number of other constituencies around the UK where the entire vote for that independent MP was given on the back of their Gaza uh, opinions and their Gaza viewpoint, as opposed to anything remotely to do with Britain, let alone their constituency. And that's when it becomes extremely maddening. Like, we are the United Kingdom. You're sitting here, you're standing as a member to be a potential member of parliament for the British Parliament, and yet we are bringing and importing Gazan politics or Middle Eastern politics into this country. And we've seen the same thing happen, by the way, when it comes to like basic squabbles, even between India and Pakistan about Kashmir or other
In
things.
Leicester.
You just see you start seeing the MPs kind of, veer off and champion those issues. Like even the whole building an airport in Mirpur issue, was so rampant in the British Parliament. And I'm just turning on the news thinking, am I listening to a Pakistani news channel, or is this like actually the United Kingdom that we're still in? Not to forget that Mirpur, so many of the perpetrators of the rape gangs were from there, and now we're trying to set up a direct link. And then the fact that you're having to negotiate with Pakistan International Airlines to send back perpetrators of the rape
Yeah.
gangs as well, like, to
The
try and strike
Pakistani
a deal like
government
that.
blackmailed them. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, that's ridiculous. I've heard even straight from Ben Habib things like, we've already got a prisoner transfer agreement in place
Yes.
with Pakistan. We do not need to allow PIA, given all of their health and safety issues and their track record, to reopen their flights
But they
into UK
surrendered though.
airspace.
But
That's
I
our
think the
prerogative.
UK
Yeah,
government
exactly.
surrendered. They
And,
have
and
reopened.
how many Pakistanis have they sent back? Because I'm still waiting to see how many they've sent back, because their human rights keep getting in the way.
It's remarkable. All these Muslims, Islamists, Muslim politicians, they have these troubling statements in public record, and yet they are not scrutinized. They are not asked what your views are. They've been emboldened for at least 2 decades to say whatever they want to say out in the open. I remember in the early 2000s, we used to have sting operations from the ABC here in Australia, or maybe SBS, or over there in England, you'll have Daily Mail. Someone will go quietly into a mosque and they would secretly record a sermon from an imam where he's saying some horrible things, and it will come out and people will be like, oh, wow, this is horrible. And then Muslims will come out and they say, these are just some extremists. That used to be early 2000s. You might be a bit too young back then, Nuriyah. But I remember that, and I used to be like, oh, wow, that's horrible. This was the world immediately after 9/11. And then we saw second and third generation Muslims come of age. So they were no longer hiding it anymore. These abhorrent views, they were advertising them in broad daylight to the whole world. They were broadcasting it. I think Anjem Choudhury was the first one. But even that died out, and the British public got desensitized. And with the advent of social media, these people have been spewing this nonsense out for so long that it actually became popular with millions of young Muslims. Look at this, Anjem Choudhury.
They used to give income support 20 days in advance. SubhanAllah. Nowadays, you get it 2 weeks in arrears. We are on dawah seekers allowance and jihad seekers allowance, you know.
Jihad seekers.
We take the jizya.
Oh my days.
The normal situation, brother, really, is to take money from the kafir, isn't it? So this is normal situation. They give us the money, you work, give us the money. Allahu Akbar. We take.
Again, this is not a secret sermon in a mosque. This is,
In fact, it's reality. How many Muslims are on state benefits and on welfare? They've actually
absolutely,
taken his advice.
absolutely. Let's talk about the breakdown of the social fabric of British society. I first came to the UK in 2017, and then I started coming to the UK regularly in 2021. And I remember you and I getting into some arguments, and I remember you even once told me that if you don't like it here, you could go back, because I would always compare the UK with Australia. And I had such a massive cultural shock, because the kind of things that I was seeing in the UK, say in 2022, 2021, they were totally foreign to me. Like, because we didn't have these kind of things happening in Australia. We didn't have these Muslim ghettos. I saw people randomly defecating on the streets. I had never seen anything like that in Australia.
Pardon? Where were you?
Yeah, in Ilford, I
You were
think I
in some
told you.
very shoddy parts, I'll tell you that.
It's the UK, it's London. You know, we don't have these shoddy parts in Melbourne or look, I think we're starting to get some too.
Defecating in the street, though.
I told
That's
you about this in Ilford, like in Ilford Plaza in the main street.
okay.
But there's so
East
many
London
others.
is the Wild West, so yeah, I hear that.
Exactly. So I had this cultural shock, and I was like, "What is this?" So now, with hindsight, we can see that something outrageous was happening. Yes, it was already bad, because the UK has been open for migration for much longer than Australia had been. It was already bad, but then it got worse. I've got some statistics to show you. This is a damning statistic that I want to show, and especially you as a woman who used to, I mean, I don't know if you still do, who used to catch the underground to go into central London, go party, do whatever, and then go back home. It's not much to expect that you will come back home in one piece. You will not be assaulted. You will not be murdered. You wouldn't be a victim of sexual assault or whatnot. But it seems like in London, it's actually a lot to ask for. Let me show you some statistics. So there's a direct correlation between the influx of migrants and the increase in sexual violence. This is a remarkable stat. So you can see then it starts from 1995, it starts going up. There's one major surge here around 2003, and then it stays steady for a while. But the major one that we have to look at is here. It's just around the pandemic time. So there was a dip because people were told to go back because of the pandemic. And then as soon as the country opened up in 2021, there's this massive spike. So all the people who had left the UK, they came back, and some more. Now have a look at this. In the year 2000, 7,801 rape offenses recorded in England and Wales. Every time you look at, there is a spike here as well. So in 2020, in 2015, we went from 34,000 rapes to 52, and then to 67. And a lot of these people are legal migrants, and a lot of them are illegal migrants. And Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain, he's published these statistics. And I think the source is Center for Migration Control, which is a think tank. And Rupert Lowe shared this probably 2 months ago. And if he was wrong, then I'm sure the thought police would have been onto him, but they're not. So look at this. Look at the country at the very top, Afghanistan. Out of 10,000 arrests, 74 of them are going to be Afghan men. Number 2 is 65. 65 out of 10,000 going to be from Eritrea. Algeria, Somalia, Sudan, Albania, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, Morocco. And Britain is all the way down at the bottom. 650, that's your national average. And by the way, this includes all those grooming gang people as well, because most of them are British citizens. Just
some are not though, yeah, but
Some are
It's a
not.
mixture.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Some are not. Some are second, third generation Brits, but they are classified as Britain in these statistics. So I just don't understand. How can anyone look at all this and ignore, especially if you're a woman, especially if you are a lefty woke politician, because your entire movement was built on women's rights, yeah, feminism, LGBTQ rights, all of these things. But for some reason, they're okay to ignore that in the name of, what is it? Empathy for migrant men who don't even bring their women and children, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, who flees war without their wives or their children? I mean, that's ridiculous. But I don't think Harris, like, I don't think there's the safeguarding ministers for, women, and I don't think these women who were in the top positions of, like, let's say even the Labour Party or the Tory Party at the time, I don't think they genuinely care for protecting women of this country. I mean, I think in my case as well, and like most people I talk to, I have taken my own protection into my own hands. We're not allowed to carry pepper spray here because it's illegal. You can kind of
What?
make your own concoction
Are you going to put a
at
burqa
home if
on?
you've got the right spices. Pardon?
What do you mean you've taken matters of your security in
I've
your own hands? Are
well,
you putting a
you
burqa
alluded
on?
to no. I would never go to that extreme to save me
Sorry.
because I've seen that that's not even protection in the
But
holiest cities of Islam. But
true.
um, yeah, you alluded to going before. I used to go out a lot in London without thinking about it. I used to jump on public transport, go into central London, loads of the nightclubs around Leicester Square, Piccadilly, like Mayfair, Soho. Now, even just walking through some of those areas, I went a couple of weeks ago with my siblings just for like a night out, and we were just bar hopping. And my younger sister, who's a lot more kind of attuned with what's going on, she goes out a lot more than me. She said we need to duck from this area like pretty soon, because after 12, it's just men with like balaclavas on. They're walking around, they're looking for trouble. And my brother was like, "Yeah, I'm not having you two here. Like, let's go." And by like when I'm out alone, I've actually got a little panic alarm that I carry on my set of keys with me. So if I feel uncomfortable, I pull that and it just sick like the whole neighborhood would wake up. But you've had to take these little precautions into your hands because, it's not even an exaggeration. I was sitting in my local pub the other day, and the general talk, you expect some nice banter, a little bit of chit chat. It's Sunday evening, people are winding down. And the talk in the pub was that at our local Sainsbury's, which is like 100, what's it in minutes, like about 2 minutes up the road, there were a bunch of young men at 9 p.m. with machetes.
Mm.
And like, I just turned around and I warned my mum, like, you are not to walk there after this time. And I mean, another guy was actually murdered and died in some of the pub own like staff's arms a couple of months ago. And like, my neighborhood was never ever like this. We used to walk around. My best friend used to come back from her shift at the hospital at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. when she was working in the A&E department. And I would say to her then, because I used to come from the Middle East where Dubai was like a lot safer. And I would say to her, how do you do it? Like, she's like, oh, it's so safe. Like, meet me here one day at 3 o'clock and you'll see how calm it is. And now, like, I mean, it's not even a question. It's the actual landscape has changed. I mean, I'm sure any woman would agree with me that London is not the same. So yeah, I completely concur with, there is definitely where there is a rise of illegal or well, especially illegal and especially undocumented, but even legal migration where it's from such foreign cultures that their views on women, like I think the top leading country as you showed was Afghanistan. In that country
Mm.
currently, women can't use their voices. I can't speak to you like this in case you'll be tempted. So I
Mm.
mean, you put them in the middle of Leicester Square where we're empowered, we're a couple of drinks down, we're getting a bit, we're
They're
feeling
gonna
a
lose
bit,
it. They're
feeling
like, we're
ourselves a
already in
little bit.
heaven.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they've never conceived something like this. And then you've got judges, the most pathetic, incompetent judges who should never have been put in those positions, who let them off and say, oh, in his culture, he didn't know that was wrong if something does happen to you. And they get let off almost scot-free with their culture or, their differences in upbringing being cited as a factor in the actual judgment. So I really have begun to think that nobody really that's in power cares about the safeguarding of women and girls. The fight for Vogue in this country very much lives on. And I just suggest to most women, safeguard yourself, because this government does not care. Every single time, Harris, I wake up and I say, like, on my way to work, I hear that more and more undocumented men have arrived at the shores of Britain. When I'm in my head planning a trip to like Cornwall or, down south or to a coastal area, I'm actually mindful not to go near the coast or on certain beaches because, I don't want to be spending my money and spending my time in a hotel near feeling absolutely intimidated constantly, or, rocking up near a bunch of tents where migrants have essentially taken over that area for all intents and purposes until they're being housed or what have you. Or what the government's done now, just given up so many of our hotels, 5-star, almost plush hotels in Canary Wharf, for these migrants. It's wild.
While all of this is happening, when there is real crime, and we have DEI officers, we have female police officers who are getting battered. I'm not exaggerating it. Have a look at this. I mean, I feel sorry for these female officers. Look at this. Look at this female police officer.
And one of my kids got sick. I was saying, hurry up.
So some British man is going to help her out. But anyway, jokes aside, but while all of this is happening, the UK police is busy still arresting people. Let me quote. Why am I being arrested? Because you shared something on social media that caused someone anxiety. Nuriyah Khan, what you just said here, if that causes anxiety to someone in Britain, you could be arrested. It boggles my mind. I just can't wrap my head around it. Have a listen to this.
Yeah.
What did it need to come to?
Tell us why you escalated it to this level, because I don't understand. I posted something that he posted. You come to arrest me, you don't arrest him. Why has it come to this? Why am I in cuffs? Because there's something he shared, then I shared.
Because someone has been caused, obviously, anxiety based upon your social media page. That's
not his.
why you've been arrested.
So this guy retweeted someone's tweet, and he says that it caused anxiety.
Do you see how, like, the authority with which he stated that, as if it's like a real, major crime that he's about to kind of stop? Yeah, stop. Like, you tweeted something that caused someone anxiety. I mean, it could not have been more true what JD Vance said about, free speech basically not existing in the UK, and then Keir Starmer coming to his like little slimy retort that we've always had free speech in the UK. Well, how do you explain things like this? This is happening, Harris. Now, most people would probably know somebody if you are active in the social media space and, you're a person with bold opinions, or you just care about the state of the nation, or,
Which is your birthright.
Absolutely.
That differentiates the free world from the authoritarian world.
Absolutely. I thought this was all about free speech, free expression, individual liberties. Like, what happened to these things? These fundamental values have been eroded. And now we're having to get knocks on the doors, checking of your bookshelves, checking of your tweets. I mean, it's absolutely. I mean, they've considered people who are anybody to the right of who they don't like means that now you are a racist, and you're that lot, as they like to say, are far-right thugs. So by that definition, I'm a far-right thug. I don't know if I look like one or if I fit the mold of one, but apparently I am that. So yeah, come on, UK police.
Which is a major flaw in their worldview, because I think I've said that to you before, that these woke, so they haven't come at us the way they go after the natives, for example, because maybe it doesn't fit their narrative that you're brown. How can you be racist towards brown people? Like, it doesn't make sense, because it would stick on Tommy Robinson that you're far right, white supremacist, racist thug. but it doesn't fit on them. So that's why they don't touch us. They're just like they keep ignoring us. Yet hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have watched our videos and they're listening to us. And because their worldview is just collapsing, it's just falling apart. And the sooner they realize it, the better it will be. Because I am starting to see even some Muslims are starting to notice this shift in the public's mood. I think the public's mood is changing. People who used to look the other way, people who didn't pay much attention to whatever was happening around them, they're now starting to pay attention. Now we are starting to see more and more people come out in the streets. And this is
But
what we wanted.
sorry,
We always,
can I just interject
yeah.
and say that I know they haven't come at us in the same way, like per se, but the way that we view, like let's say like white liberal women or extreme left, white liberals as useful idiots to the Islamist cause,
Oh, yeah.
I think they see us as useful idiots to the far right
But
cause.
only brown people. No, but
So,
only brown people say that. Only other
yeah,
Muslims. They say, I'm talking about the whites. I'm talking about the white woke politicians or white wokes. They haven't come at us.
yeah, they steer clear. You're right, because we just crush the narrative.
Yeah.
We ignite the cognitive dissonance in their mind.
Yeah, they're like, well, hang on
So
a second. You should. We've seen
don't
that with.
compute that.
No, I think I've seen some videos of some white wokes in America who are talking to conservative black people who are against this woke ideology. They're like, no, you don't know this, but they are oppressing you, and we are on your side, so you should be on our side.
Oh
But
my
I think
word.
but maybe they think we're too smart, so they don't try to
Yeah,
engage us.
the closest case in point I could have is like, so somebody sent my the Islamization of Slough, which was like a
Oh, great video,
blueprint
by the way.
for many other. Thank you. It was like a blueprint for many other, UK towns, and I'm just like asking a question: has your town been Islamicized yet? Because so many have. And he sent it to his local councillor, and his councillor is a liberal Democrat. Councillor representative, obviously, and his remark was the same that you get, when you hear a real life experience from a woman who's lived this, was just to kind of put down my experience and say, I'm not saying she's dishonest, but she clearly hates the religion that she was born in. So it's almost like, I think their response to us would be just to like downplay our experience, belittle it, and say that we've got like some kind of vengeance for what we were born up as and born into, and therefore like we're on this kind of, I guess, this hate ship for wanting to spread division. So
It's
yeah,
very
it's the same, just very manipulative kind of same, disregarding your experiences because it doesn't fit their narrative. It's like la 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 la, let me close my ears and just go with my oppressor. That suits me very nice.
Yeah, just let me put her in that box. I have solved that mystery. Let's carry on. That's how they see it. They've
Absolutely.
oversimplified their worldview. By the way, guys, this is Nuriyah Khan's YouTube channel. She makes amazing videos. This is that video that she's talking about. Slough, Britain's quite surrendered to Islam. Awesome video. Do check that out. And this is the Labour councillor that Nuriyah is talking about. The young woman obviously has some serious grievances regarding the religion she was born into, just the same as some Catholics I know and some Jehovah Witnesses I have met. I am not saying she's being purposefully dishonest, but hate sells. So you're telling her she's a hate merchant, she's monetizing her hate. Is she doing it for money? Then you are saying that she's lying. She's making a living doing this
Exactly.
the way hundreds of others from the left and right are, by playing on people's fears. By playing on people's fears. I mean, this woman is a former Muslim. It's amazing how these people know about other people more than they know about themselves.
Touche.
He's never
Yeah.
he's never spoken to you. He probably doesn't know about your history. It's a very the Slough video is a very educational, academic video. I'll include the link in the description. Please do check it out. That's an amazing video. It's academic. There is no emotionality in that. It's a wonderful video. And then he looks at that and he said, it sells. She's making money on it. 50,000 people have watched this video. So that's it. I've solved that problem. Don't bother me with this. I'm going to carry on. I don't get it. I'm sorry. This is why I'm saying I don't get it. When I asked you at the start that I don't understand why these woke politicians, I don't know whether it's woke or not, but these lefty politicians, woke politicians, I just don't understand what's the incentive of ignoring the threat of Islam or Islamism. What's the incentive? And I think you said it. Maybe it's just, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't. It's lazy too. Like, I mean, it's easier to just sit down and don't do anything and just ignore everything, go in the denial mode. That's easy because, as I said, to find a solution, you have to first recognize it, then you have to devise a plan, and then you have to implement it. All of these three things require courage and effort and competency too, which is hard to come by. But
also in their mind, I think there's no greater threat than like the current way the world is set up and the superiority in their mind, and the advantages of being, let's say, a white person in these situations. So, I mean, if his own like resident from his area sent him my video saying, I'm concerned that this is happening in our constituency because, excuse me, there were protests out there. If you watch the video, like about Salman Rushdie, that turned extremely intimidating to the point where I make a case for the fact that Islamic, de facto blasphemy law won in the case of Slough because they managed to shut down a woman who even offered refuge and respite to the Batley grammar school teacher. But in general, Salman Rushdie's books were not even allowed to be sold in a British shop, W.H. Smith, and they were demanding that it not be, sold or published anywhere there. And they, instead of addressing any of these concerns that are fundamentally anti-British, Harris, as you mentioned, you pulled up the Green Party's couple of their points from their manifesto earlier. What do they stand for? They said a liberal democracy, right? Does this happen? Is this supposed to take place in a liberal democracy? I don't think so. And yet here you are siding with who I will tell you are the real oppressors, but you're blind to it. You're willfully blind to it. And instead you're saying to me that hate sells, but that's fine because I've never looked to the Green Party or the Lib Dems as my political home anyway. Maybe when I was 16 and naive, but never after that.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. Like, I mean, we all started our activism from a very neutral position, and some of our ex-Muslim colleagues are still stuck in that world where they still say that no, Muslims, like we have to ignore this, they will improve, and blah blah blah. They're still in that zone. I have evolved past that situation. I think you have, because we have come to realize that when you bring in a large chunk of people from cultures that are inherently opposite to that of their host country, such as Britain, then a big chunk of those people are going to stay loyal to their home culture. That's just a bare-faced reality. We can wish that they can evolve, they can integrate, but cultures that have been fighting with each other for centuries, to expect that they will suddenly move past it. You and I were just exceptions. And again, we are very bold exceptions. We have announced that, we are divorcing this culture. We are divorcing this ideology. We have made a conscientious decision that Western secular liberal values is the way to go forward. Therefore, we ally ourselves with this. Most Muslims don't do that even subconsciously. They may think they don't have to do it. But this guy I showed you earlier, this Motin Ali guy, who do you think he's going to be loyal to when there is a clash between Islamists and the British patriots, people who stand up for British secular liberal values? Who is he going to pick at that point? That woman, and whatever her name was, that bisexual woman with a rainbow in her bio, she will be thrown under the bus in a heartbeat. These people
In
don't
fact, he'd
understand.
probably gloat and say my religion, treats you as even worse because of your sexuality. So you're going to be like straight in the firing line, metaphorically speaking.
No,
Well,
literally.
in Islamic terms, quite literally. Yeah.
On the rooftop though. So maybe not by fire, but on the rooftop.
In another,
I've said it before. The only good thing, the only satisfying thing out of this would be if there is an Islamic takeover. I'm an optimistic person. I don't think there will be. But the only good thing or satisfying thing out of this would be the look on the faces of all those people whom we warned that don't get in bed with these people. It would be interesting to see the look on their faces when they're about to meet their end at their own
Do you know
hands.
what? I'm willing to even forego that little bit of glory and satisfaction to be like, I'd rather just no, Islam. We nip it in the bud somehow now. The lions awaken, we tighten our borders,
Yes.
we start getting rigorous, we start vetting mosques. Hell, we start closing down many mosques. We don't let, this outward like infiltration of Islam penetrate society in the way it's done. We get very serious. I'm talking like, drastic measures as if this is a subversive threat and force within the United Kingdom that has permeated through so many levels of our establishment that we need to do a deep clean. I'm talking of like the Home Office, the entire civil service, the judiciary. I could go on, but I mean, like, we need to spring clean our home like there is no tomorrow. Hundreds, if not millions, of people need to be deported back. And a lot of people will look at me and be like, oh, that's rich or that's funny coming from you as an immigrant. But again, it's baseline. Of course, there's a mini far right out there somewhere, which, some people like to chuck that
That will get
argument at
bigger.
us that we're useful to them.
If we
But I
ignore
will
the
say,
legitimate grievances, very important to point this out, that if we ignore the
Yeah.
legitimate grievances, that mini far right is going to get big far right.
True. Yeah, exactly. And we see this wave growing across Europe, but also I very much am secure in the fact that I was born in this country. I consider myself British. My family's been here for 3 generations. But if I was working actively against this state, I would be ready to be deported back to a country that fitted more in line with my values, i.e., Pakistan, where I hail from, ethnically speaking. Otherwise, the fact that I'm born and, Britain is the only home I know in that sense. The fact that my values align with everything British, and we're sounding the alarm bells coming from the culture and the religion that we've come from. I think we are more than well placed to say that this isn't just like fear mongering, and we're not just coming out here and talking in complete extremes, because we say these things based on our understanding of Islam. But then when just before I came on the stream with you as well, I was looking at UK YouTube channels, and Harris, before it was 1 or 2, now every other podcast that I'm listening to in my spare time is actually theorizing what a civil war would look like if it was to happen.
I've been saying it.
And we're edging closer and closer, and obviously, like, nobody wants that. Look, there are so many well-meaning, decent Muslims, like our own families. There's so many well-meaning immigrants who have come here and assimilated, but there's one particular group in particular. And the reason, honestly, I'm taking my YouTube channel in this direction, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but I'm focusing a lot more on how sneakily they've infiltrated, whether it's our school system, whether it's, taking over towns over years. I go back like 20 years of somebody who emigrated from Pakistan, back in the 60s. Like just probably around the same time that my grandparents came, but he took a different, complete leaning into his assimilation here, i.e. he didn't at all. And the erosion of society we see around us, like I'm sure when you were in the UK, Harris, I jokingly said to you, like, there are certain places that I will never tell you to step foot in, which are very much because those are de facto. Mohammed Hijab would say that's our gangster area. We got it covered. Bruv. There's no need to worry about that area. These are stark realities in the UK now. So, yeah, I just think it's very serious, the situation here.
But let's end this on a positive note. As you just pointed out, things are looking good, though. People are waking up, and that's the first step. The public has to rise up. They have to recognize politicians are not going to do anything on their own. The public, the masses have to rise up. They have to say that the system is terribly broken. We need to fix it, and we would not have any more of this nonsense. And I think that's starting to happen.
I can only hope so, because and we're all looking, I think, all eyes on September 13th, next Saturday.
Are you going there?
I'm planning to. So yeah, hopefully nothing happens from here to now to Saturday. I will be there, but there will be probably 1 million plus people there. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's going to be a bit of a mad one. But what the bigger picture is that this is indicative of this change. Like when I've been banging on today about the establishment and the judiciary and institutions that have been hijacked, this is people saying we are awake to this and we actually are demanding change because we're not going to take this lying down. You've given us the same kind of talking points time and time again. I've been waking up listening to smash the gang, stop the boats, smash the gang, stop the boats for yonks. Now people are like, enough is enough. We demand change, and if we don't get it, we are going to usher in a revolution on our own kind of, volition. Because you don't just stand by, Harris, and let perpetrators of some of the most horrific crimes of the last few decades just walk freely and judges kind of pat them on the back as they leave court. Like, this stuff has to end, and it's got to end. I think the only way it will end is when people show a unified front, and I think that's what we're aiming for now. Enough people are fed up. So yeah, there is a positive note that from globally, it looks all doom and gloom for the UK, especially when you scroll on social media. It really looks like a bad situation. America's looking on, Australia, I'm sure, is looking on as well. But trust me when I say, like, people on the ground here, we are ready to metaphorically fight back.
All right, people, you heard that from Nuriyah Khan. That's her YouTube channel. Do subscribe it. Check out her videos. She makes awesome content and she's a patriot. All right, until next time. Ta.
Bye-bye.